This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. And to get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee, you can go to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. So you did something interesting this week, Avram, that I was following along on Tom's Hardware that I am really excited to hear more about.
So, obviously the topic of inflation and the cost of living going up are huge right now. But what if I told you that there's one area where costs might actually be going down, if not staying pretty stable, and that is the world of computer components.
Which would sound crazy to anybody who has been listening for the last year and a half.
Yes. Well, one thing that's going on is the crypto crash is having a very positive effect on graphics card stock, and I think stock of other components as well. You have to remember that for the last couple of years, there have been a lot of crypto miners, and we're not talking about an individual one person with a computer in their living room. We're talking about companies that buy farms of, I don't know, hundreds of, or maybe thousands of machines, and they set them up and they get multiple graphics cards per machine. And that had really, really driven up the cost and lowered the availability of graphics cards, and really hurt the industry more so than anything that had been going on with the pandemic, or problems with shipping stuff. The GPU shortage is a very serious problem. Now, it's suddenly over the last couple of months, and I think it's no coincidence that it's happening because the price of crypto is crashing. People are no longer investing in buying new crypto rigs, and so you're seeing the price of the cards return to reasonable prices near their MSRP, sometimes even below. And we're seeing that the price of other things that are other components like CPUs and RAM and SSDs is at least hanging pretty stable, if not low. So I was doing some research, and I figured out, by looking at the prices that are available, that one can build a pretty decent gaming PC for under $500, and you can build a like 720p capable gaming PC for under $400. Now, and I have an article about this on Tom's Hardware, but I want to talk about what you need to make these things happen. So, first of all, what's really important to keep in mind is that if you're spending $500, or less, you are going to have to make some compromises, but not as bad. It's not as bad as you might think. So let me pull up our configuration now. Based on my research, the components that we recommend in our article add up to slightly less than $500. However, that was what it was, last Thursday. Perhaps today these same components will be $510, perhaps, or $490, because prices do fluctuate. But on the other hand, you can also substitute some parts, because the two most important parts are the CPU and the graphics card. Get a different brand of RAM if you need to. You can get a different brand of power supply if you need to, etc. So let's talk about that gaming PC that's under $500 and has a discrete graphics card. What you need is, right now, an Intel Core i3-12100F processor is your best bet. That has been selling for around $106. And you know what? It's not an old CPU. That is the new generation, current generation 12th gen processor with 4 cores and I believe a 4.3 gigahertz boost clock. So a good current generation CPU. To accommodate that CPU, you will need a H610 chipset motherboard. We found one selling for $89. Perhaps you'll find one cheaper, but we found one selling for $89 that had all the basic capabilities. And the video card that you can get at this price, in this price range, is any video card based on a AMD Radeon RX 6400. So you can get a Radeon RX 6400 card for $159. Now, I will say this: if you could splurge just $20 more, which I think most people could, then you would go over $500. But I would strongly recommend doing so, because then you could get a Radeon RX 6500, which is 30% faster for $20 more. So in either case, you can play 1080p resolution games at least mid-range settings with either of these cards, although you'll do better with the 6500 than the 6400. You also are going to need a storage drive. The best deal that we found on a storage drive, this is a pretty good drive, is a Team Group MP33 M2 storage drive that gets, it's not the fastest drive on the market, but it's 1500 megabytes per second read and write approximately, and 512 gigabyte capacity is $42. Now, again, spending a little more money would help you out here, because for $30 more, you can have a 1 terabyte model. Similarly, we went with 8 gigabytes of DDR4 PC3200 RAM. Now, obviously, RAM, you've got to buy what we call dual channel RAM, which is a kit of 2 RAM sticks that are the same. So our 8 gigabyte kit, which is 2 4 gigabyte sticks, was $29 when last we checked. Now, again, I'd splurge a little bit, because if you could go up to $47, you could get a 16 gigabyte kit, which would definitely be preferable. Rounding out our configuration, we have a 430 watt Thermaltake smart power supply that we found for $29. 430 watts is enough if you're using a low end, a 65 watt CPU like we have, and a relatively low end GPU like we have. But we also saw power supplies of 400 to 500 watts, anywhere in the $29 to $49 range. Finally, there's our case. The case was on sale at the time. The case that is on sale right now is the Corsair Carbide 175R, which is $44 after rebate. Now, that's that case is normally $65 or more. So by the time someone else wants to buy, you may have to go for a different case if you want to hit this price point. There are a few cases in the $45 to $50 range natively, such as I think Rosewell's X1, I think it's X1 HBM case, but it's not nearly as nice as the Corsair one. So all told, our config came to $498 for all of that. Now, we're not including the price of the operating system, and of course, we expect that you're going to get a keyboard and mouse if you don't have one, and a monitor if you don't have one. So we're just talking about the price of building the PC, but I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah, definitely. That's a surprisingly powerful little machine for that price.
Now, if you want to go even cheaper,
Uh-oh.
we have configured a machine for under $400, $385 to be exact. And the way we did that one is no graphics card. For that, we're going with a Ryzen 5 5600G CPU, which gives you really the best integrated graphics experience around. Well, there's a slight step up in the Ryzen 7 5700G, but that is so expensive as to not be worth it. So the Ryzen 5 5600G sells for $164, and it gives you pretty decent graphics that can at least get you good 720p gaming and probably modest 1080p gaming. For that, you'll need a motherboard that has that is compatible with it. A lot of the older AMD motherboards that are the cheapest do not come with the right firmware out of the box to run a 5000 series chip. So be careful which one you get. We found that the ASRock B450M HDV R4 says that it is updated out of the box. But of course, we haven't tested to confirm that, but that is what the claim is. So you definitely want a motherboard that can, run the chip out of the box. And then we went with pretty much all the other parts the same 8 gigabytes of RAM, of Crucial RAM, the same 512 gigabyte SSD and case and power supply. So the main difference is going to integrated graphics from discrete.
And like you said, integrated graphics today are not what they were just a couple of years ago. You can actually get some gaming performance out of it. Good 720 and okay 1080. You said.
Yeah. I mean, it's passable. It should be passable, and that actually is a pretty good chip because you're also getting six. I believe you're getting 6 cores out of that. So
Nice.
That's so. I mean, if you were thinking about it, like, hey, I don't really. I mean, the integrated graphics actually would be fantastic if you're a person who doesn't really care, who's listening to watching this and doesn't really care that much about gaming and is more about, hey, I want a pretty decent PC and maybe I'll play a game. Then the 5600G is a great choice because it'll give you very decent graphics, but it'll also give you really solid productivity performance, multi-threaded with the 6 cores that it has. So that's pretty good. But in both cases, I would, we were trying to hit a price point for the article, but I would really strongly suggest that folks spend another, $20 to $50 to upgrade the RAM from 8 to 16 gigs and to go from, and if possible, to go from a 500 gig to a 1 terabyte SSD. Although the SSD is a little less critical because you can always buy another SSD later. Whereas with the RAM, depending on the motherboard, you might only have 2 slots, and then you would have to throw the RAM away if you wanted to replace it later. And really, 8 gigabytes is 8 gigabytes is not great. You can live with it, but I would not personally run a computer with less than 16 gigabytes today.
Yeah, for sure. And just in the interest of full disclosure, this is coming from somebody who's sitting at a computer with 32. But yeah,
right. I mean,
I wouldn't go below
because you have your browser tabs open.
Yeah.
You have your browser tabs open, and so like you don't have to be a quote unquote power user. You just maybe have like a person who likes to open new tabs a lot. You could end up very easily eating up those 8 gigs of RAM really fast and eating up 16 gigs of RAM in short too if you have enough tabs open, and then your computer slows down a lot. So you definitely want to, going from 8 to 16, and the price differential is like, somewhere, depending on what the price is right now, between $16 and $20. I would definitely spend it.
It's funny you say that. There was a meme going around this week that two frames. The top one said NASA 64K of RAM. We put a man on the moon. 2022, 32 gigs of RAM. Chrome tab angry.
Well, I think what it proves is that putting someone on the moon is about a lot of things other than the RAM, right?
Very true.
Although one interesting thing that I have noticed, and I don't know why this is, but I'd be curious if someone could tell me, is that on Raspberry Pi, and this might be a Linux thing, the browser uses a lot less RAM than running the same Chrome browser opening similar websites on my Windows PC.
That's definitely interesting. I don't know. It could just be, the way the operating system is interacting with memory management, or there's all kinds of possibilities. Maybe Chrome on the Raspberry Pi has an efficiency mode, like we're going to talk about with Edge in a minute. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like, granted, I'm not normally opening like a ton of tabs on a Raspberry Pi, but I have tried it. And it took a while, like on an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi, it took a lot of tabs to max out that 8 gigabytes. I can max out 8 gigabytes of RAM in like 30 seconds with tabs on my desktop. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't know why that is.
The browser development on the PC seems to be not as much of a focus. I don't know. It's all very strange. But I think you said that you've already got this one out in the wild.
Yes, it is. So come to tomshardware.com and you will find my article on how to build a gaming PC for under $500.
Fantastic. Well, as always, Avram, I appreciate this one in particular. I spent some time looking it over, as I am likely about to start building some PCs myself. So that was a fun piece of information. I know the viewers will appreciate it as well. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next time. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Piltch Point with Avram Piltch. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and of course hit the notification bell, since subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. And if you've got topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you don't want to follow us on YouTube, that's okay. There's a lot of other ways that you can follow our content. You can find all of that by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.